Hi, everyone. Welcome to our January 2023 Ask the Expert interview. Today, I'm happy to be joined by three wonderful experts in all types of things, but we're going to be talking to them about Lions clubs and the way that Lions as a whole react and respond when there is need based on natural disasters and many other things. So today I have Mr. Stephen Peterson with us, Chuck Carlson, and Gary Logan. All of them have worked with Lions clubs here in Kentucky in the last couple of years with tornadoes, flood victims in Eastern Kentucky, and have always been ones to jump in whenever help is needed. So first, I want to say thank you to all of you for doing what you do. And thanks for being on with me today and participating in this interview.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll get out here first and make a fool of myself. But first thing I'd like to say is it's really the team that does it. It's not maybe Stephen, but it's not me. The team does it. It's all teamwork, and we have plenty of need for teamwork and plenty of room for additional Lions.
Sure. So each one of you has stepped up in a big way in various communities after these natural disasters. So I just want to ask each of you to briefly just say what your recommendation would be to people who are going through types of natural disasters like this. What's kind of the first step in helping to organize getting help? So I'll let Stephen go first, and we'll go around just based on what you've experienced.
Well, based on what we did during the flood damage in Eastern Kentucky, first thing we did was we contacted the local Lions clubs that had their feet on the ground, and then tried to do an initial assessment of what the needs were, because it was pretty big, and it's more than one organization could possibly handle. We did that, and then we had an initial response where we took cleaning supplies and things like that, toiletry items, that just realizing these people just lost their homes. They have nothing. Most of them just barely escaped with their lives. So you're starting at ground zero with these people, and it's kind of overwhelming at first. But that was how we started off. Chuck and I working together along as Gary mentioned, it's a team. It was in our case here, it was a disaster relief team that was put together. And that worked out really well.
Yeah, we had a very good committee there, Jennifer. I mean, that we had chosen and a lot of volunteers, and of course, Lions we serve. That's kind of what our motto is. Like I say, the contact, like Steve mentioned, down there with the local clubs was tremendous effort that they put forward. And then the outreach that we've had, just asking, it's communication. If we put the word out, we've had a lot of Kentucky Lions have stepped up and have done a lot of traveling and miles in other states. But that's kind of basically what it is. If we can communicate, and like I said, I was on a pretty daggone good team with the disaster and why. The flood, one thing I say, the flood victims is a little different than a disaster tornado. The tornado probably was bigger and more devastating. But when it came through, it was over. It's just then they had to come back to rebuilding. The flood, the waters would come up, the waters would go down. They'd come back up, they go back down. So it was a longer process for people to kind of recover. And they're starting to slowly do that. And of course, like I said, I have to, the kudos have got to go to Steve Peterson, has taken this farther along than most. And like I say, that the passion that he has to help these people is really kind of motivated the rest of the committee.
The first thing I did was to set up a team so that I had somebody that was close to underground but wasn't worried about putting themselves back together. And that way I had a contact point that was set up for that we could funnel everything through. We could funnel all the requests for help and the requests to help us through to make sure that we were coordinated. The other thing is found with the tornado, at least, and I know it's different with flood, But with the tornado, it was different from day to day. One day they would need something, the next day they didn't need that anymore, they needed something else. And it was very difficult to stay on top of the needs versus what's available. Sometimes you'd spend 4 or 6 hours trying to find what they said they needed. We call them up, say, okay, here it is, here's a contact, call them. Oh, we don't need that anymore. The Army brought it in, or somebody else brought it in. So a lot of the time we were just trying to stay ahead of what was needed and trying to help many, 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 many families, as you were down in eastern Kentucky.
How many people do you think in each situation have been involved from Lions of Kentucky in some way, if you had to guess?
Oh my gosh. I even reached out to District K, and they just, I'm talking about for the flood relief, and it was overwhelming response. I just asked for winter coats. Next thing you know, I've got over 1,400 winter coats, and we met the needs of the people down there very quickly, actually. And we beat remember that Arctic blast that came in December? We got all those items to them, coats, heaters, and other things as well. But it was overwhelming. I don't know how you could restrict that. Maybe Chuck has a better answer than I do, but it's a lot of people that were involved.
I don't know if you can honestly put a number to it. I think I've made 7 trips, and I think each time when I go to a place, I find 2 or 3 more people that weren't there the last time. I go to this town and there's 25 people there, and then there's 15 over here, and like I say, and across the state, I don't know how many times, and Steve has too. I've picked up coats. He went, hooked up coats. People have driven 4 hours to drop off coats. So, I mean, it's a tremendous, Steve's, the church group and the Lions Club he has there, where we have been housing, which probably was one of our most difficult items that we had. We didn't have a place to house stuff close to the facilities where the people were in the area that they needed. So we're 3 hours and a half away to drive down there to get to this stuff. But like I say, a number, you probably 500 would be a low number, I would honestly think, of the people that we had. The letters and the checks and the donations and things like that. So even if somebody gives you $20, that's helping. So the number, I would have to say 500 would be a good figure.
And I would echo the fact that there's no way to count. There's just not any way to count. Plus, in our case, I'm sure the same in eastern Kentucky, the out-of-state Lions were so helpful. It was unbelievable how much we received from the out-of-state Lions and how much they offered help. Sometimes we couldn't take their help, but they offered it, and we were always grateful. I actually had, because we had 120 some miles of tornado damage, I actually had set up 7 different areas and a different person assigned to each area so that they could be more on top of it. One person could not be on top of 120 miles. They just couldn't. But it's all a teamwork, and I would say I'd like to thank every Lion in Kentucky, because we received either financial help or prayers or assistance from Lions from all over Kentucky, and the rest of the country too, for that matter.
What can we do to get more Lions involved? Or I know you all said a lot of Lions have, and that's great. And it may just be, how can we get others to see what Lions are doing and want to join us? But do we have any thoughts on how these types of reactions to these events can help us grow Lions?
I know for me, when we went down to Heinemann and we fed people, we fed over 900 people the first time, 1,300 the second time, and over 1,500 the third time. I mean, an actual hot meal. Even fed them a hot Thanksgiving meal. But the reason I mentioned that, we kept inviting other people to participate in that. We were doing this. We were going down there with 32 people, and they'd be coming from our church, other churches, coming from Flemingsburg Lions Club, City of Flemingsburg, Kentucky Farm Bureau. It took a team effort, not just Lions, but a community effort. And when we did that, always more people wanted to go the next time and see it firsthand, and even in the next time. And they keep asking me now, when you're going back again, because they want to participate. They feel like you're making a difference, and you see the looks on the people's faces firsthand, and you hear the stories when the car pulls up to grab a meal. And all you got to do is ask. They're more than willing to tell you the whole story about what happened to their home. They'll even tell you about the people that passed away that they knew. Some people lost their homes entirely. Others were flooded 8 feet up, and you know about what that was like. And then, the biggest thing I think I need to mention here is communication. Chuck mentioned that. But until I went to District K's cabinet meeting and got in front of them, and I mentioned exactly what the situation was. 10,000 homes were either damaged or destroyed, Put that into real terms, how many people been impacted. And, their hearts went out, and I told them, now this is what we can do. Can you help me with this? And I told you about the coat drive. It was just awesome. I can't even describe it. And also there was funds given too, which also is helping still to this day.
Yeah, I think the communication is the key. People see on a flash screen on the news program, you see something. I think having Sam Quillen and Mark come up to our district and show with the little video that he had, and realizing he wasn't showing the whole area, he was just showing the devastation from his area where he was, just going around his house and all. And I think once you get there, and if you see, so anybody who volunteers wants to come down, you can't be a gawker. You don't want to come down there, but you see it. And once you do, some of the people in there have just overbearing a ridiculous amount of time that they've helped us. The food banks down there, we picked up, I think, another city when we were down there, Jeremiah, which was a fantastic group of people that are there that are, helping. Some of the pastors in the church, so like I said, I think it's people realizing, of course, we like to serve, but this is a kind of a fast thing, like I say, what Steve said with the cold, when we saw that cold weather going to hit, well, I mean, heck, we still had 50 families still in like tents when the weather was hitting. So, but I think the communication is a big part, and the showing and letting them and being pretty open about what we've done with newsletters and things like that, I think is probably will help pretty much.
Well, communication definitely is that's one of the things. You ask about new members and so on. We had 5 new members in St. Charles that actually became members after they helped us set up a warehouse to deliver supplies. And St. Charles is over by Dawson Springs. So people that needed things from Dawson Springs came over to St. Charles to get that. And they provided space and had it almost looked like a store in there when you go in. People go in and get what they need and leave. And they've all joined. Now, we are looking at trying to start new clubs in some of the major areas that we provided assistance that didn't have clubs. St. Charles did not have a club. Dawson Springs did not have a club. But there was, and Princeton doesn't, but there was a club within a few miles of most of those. Madisonville is not far from Princeton. Of course, Mayfield had a club, and those people were always busy. Colleen Alexander spent hours and hours and hours at the warehouse there, where not just Lions Club, but a community warehouse. And she has spent, every day for, I talked to her about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and she's still spending part of a day there every now and then. Not every day anymore, and that's somebody that probably the name hadn't come up to anybody except for the Lions that are close. But she definitely is one that I recognized her with the certificate for her. And there's just so many people like that are helpful, but they were also trying to take care of their kinfolks, and their house, you know, Lion Kevin, his roof was not completely gone, but was damaged, and he had to try to get that fixed while he was trying to work on getting an office fixed. I guess he's a judge, so the courthouse got completely destroyed, and they had to get courts going again. So people had their work to do, plus they have to help the Lions. And I think you can't do without that, but you also need the people that can take time off and go to the area and help them. And we had a lot of that.
Well, I just want to ask about any help that is currently needed. I know with the tornadoes, that seems like a while ago, but it's really just a year, and it takes a lot of time to rebuild things. So I'll just let you go through, and each of you just say a few things that are maybe still at the top of the most needed list, so that others know how they can pitch in now, because I'm sure there's still plenty of need right now in both cases.
We established safe phases that we went through. Third phase was cold weather protection. We're pretty much through that. We're a little bit left. And now we're on what we call the sustainment and the rebuilding phase. And this is where everybody can participate. Chuck will be talking more about this. Right now, we're trying to do a food drive. These people have food for today, but what about next week? You know, and that's going to be a constant thing that they need help with right now. Because whatever disposable income they have, they're spending it on trying to rebuild their homes. We're not going to deliver drywall and stuff like that. That's a little bit out of our purview, but we are giving gift cards for Walmart and for Lowe's so they can purchase those items. We realize our limitations, and we try to operate within those limitations.
Yeah, I think, like I say, when Steve said that the phase program was kind of Steve's program that he started, which I think has really sustained us going through. Like I say, the phase 4, we are on a major food, non-perishable food drive. Of course, we're never going to refuse cash. I don't know if anybody's ever been, when you go in these places, Save a Lot or Kroger's or something, you have X number of dollars to spend and usually can get a deal. We're going to be doing that for this next 4 to 5 weeks during all our cabinet meetings, trustee meetings, and things of that nature. So we're doing that. And then it's going to be, we can do drywall screws, nails, we can do hammers, those things like that, small ticket items we can handle. Like Steve's saying, the large items. At one time I had an opportunity to purchase a large truck. Well, then it was, reasonable $5,000, and all of a sudden it went up to $20,000. Well, that's there. We still do have some funds remaining in our district relief, like I said, and we have another Zoom meeting shortly, next couple of weeks, so we'll see how it's all going. That's about basic. The phases, like I say, once they get going. I think right now, currently, if I'm not mistaken, everybody is out of tents. Right now, I think we finally got everybody out of the tent. But even some of these little homes, you don't realize they're in little, I call them they're even smaller than the old silver little campers. Well, those things ain't made up for the wintertime. Those are summer, So there's been some people, and they have tent cities, camper cities. A lot of people, I think there was still 43 lives were lost down there during this flood, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So
that's correct.
There's still a need. Good group of people in there. Neon Community is just unbelievable. I mean, we made one delivery down there, and they had to sit there. They were putting a little prayer card and the person's name. We dropped off maybe 100 items to them, 3-4 pallets. And by the time me and Steve got around, before we get back 3 hours later, every single thing but 4 pieces were right where it belonged to the people that needed it. So that's very nice for us when we drove home to realize that the stuff we gave is not sitting in a warehouse someplace. It's actually being used, utilized, delivered, and picked up by people.
Yeah.
And as far as tornado damage, they might be between 5 and 6% recovered by now. It's not something that happens overnight. The state had pledged to build 100 houses. So far, they built about 6. So there's still a lot of houses to be built. And currently, that's our idea, is when they move back into a house, that we give them a card, some cash on it, to let them buy what they need, because they've been in a hotel, or, you know, whether it's, let them decide themselves. They want curtains, they want bedding, they want pots and pans, all those things, which we originally were giving out a lot of those things to people that had houses that were livable. And but right now, that's where we're going. We still have some money left, not a whole lot, but at least we can help the ones we can. And by then, maybe there'll be some other avenues available for that same type help. But it's personal right now. You know, when we first started out, it was more of getting everything safe and getting everything, getting what they needed, chainsaws to cut trees out of the way, and cleaning up rakes to rake out. Well, that type stuff, there's still some areas that need it, but that's up to those people too. The people own it. So that's where we are. We're down to where we're helping individual families. And by the way, we helped individual families before. You know, we had over almost 1,000 kids that we got presents for Christmas that first December, because it hit on December 10th. And unfortunately, all the Christmas presents just about went away with the tornado. It had a big Christmas, but the kids didn't have much. So we had a whole truckload of toys, and for different ages. We wish we could do everything. We can't, but we do what we can.
I said that's about all we can hope for. So you just do what you can, because you cannot help everybody. You can't help them with everything, but every little bit helps. And if you see somebody just putting on a coat, somebody just saying, "Oh my gosh, there's a little heater here," and you know, things like that matters very, very much. And like I say, it's overwhelming the happiness on the faces of when some of these people, you can see just getting a meal, like Steve said, providing a meal, a hot meal, not a hot dog or a hamburger or pizza, but I mean, I even had peach cobbler on, you know, I mean, come on, this is unbelievable amount, you know.
Well, this will be my last question. We've just got a few minutes left, but how can anyone, whether they're a Lion or not, get involved in either volunteering to help this, or providing items to support, or provide funding? Is there a disaster relief fund that anybody can make donations to, or how does that work?
43Y has a disaster relief fund. Karen Nitschke manages that fund, does a very good job, so they can contribute there. And that's anybody can do that. And that is most needed, I'll tell you, because gift cards is really the trick. You know, people make their own choices. So if they need receptacles, if they need a microwave or whatever, you give them gift cards, they can fill their own individual needs. And that's been a very important thing. And as far as individuals helping, that's kind of a sporadic thing, unless you want to get in direct contact with the Lions clubs down there and see what activities they've actually got going on at any given moment, because most of individuals work just like we do, and they're helping out on weekends and nights and things like that. So that's, you know, the best answer that I have for that right now.
Gary, you want to go ahead and talk about District K?
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, generally, every community has a contact point already established to help. And we tried to at least get in that group so that we could not be duplicating or wasting our efforts. So that if you just want to go help somebody, if you can't get a Lions Club to say, yes, we're doing this that day, find out who the emergency management person is, and they'll tell you where the help can be used day after day, any day. As far as the fund, yes, we had a fund. Originally, when it went out, I suggested that people do one of several things. One, send it to LCIF, for disaster for the West Kentucky tornado, or send it to our district, District K. We have fun, or send it to Mayfield, because the TVs have given so much coverage of Mayfield. That's what everybody thought. Hey, Mayfield was the one that had the tornado. No, yeah, they did, but it was also another 120 miles besides that. So that the District K fund generally helped out outside of Mayfield, although we did, like in Mayfield, we bought a truck for the fire department for the fire and rescue squad, which we have in Mayfield. We bought turnout equipment for them. We had a LCIF grant over $80,000 that we spent, all of it on helping that fire rescue department get back on its feet.
Yeah, District Y has a relief fund also that we do administer, and we did get $10,000 on a grant that we went out there. And like I said, I think with the committee we have, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I couldn't ask for a better group of people to have supporting us and all like that. So they're really good. But like I said, you got to add, like I said, I'm not sure if we're really to build houses yet or put up walls. But I think local communities have been starting to do that. They're getting to kind of their own volunteers, and they're very nice about when we have one of the contacts down there to say, okay, what else do you need right now? And they are pretty good about asking for exactly what it is. We haven't had the duplication that they had down there in K. This is pretty immediate, and they don't have a lot of people helping them with this stuff. So they ask for a heater, they still need that heater next week and the week after. It's not where they say, oh, I don't need it anymore. So, but like I said, that's been pretty good.
Well, I am going to wrap us up. I appreciate you all being on here with me today and being our expert Lions throughout the state. And hopefully we have no more disasters anytime soon that you all will be putting out fires for. But we appreciate all that you do. And thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you,
Jennifer. I'd just like to say thank you for letting us on, and I hope you're the expert in predicting no more disasters.
Me too.